Okay, I'm doing a review of the first movement of the Bartok dance suite. I'm going to start the ritornello, the coda of the first movement, and work my way backwards. So it's approached with says ritardando molto. No wonder this doesn't feel familiar. I'm doing the ritornello from the second movement. That just goes to show these ritornelli use recurrent material. That's why they're called ritornelli. But the second one is much more complex and it involves much more of an extended hand position. To be worked out in terms of what's holding. I have a lot of sostenuto pedal marked. Just for the sake of these middle register chords. Hyper aware of these inner lines. Many lines. This is an orchestral piece. Have the melody, have this offbeat bass line, and have the chordal sustaining lines. So I need to be aware. If I want to make sense out of that, I have to start savoring that lower line of the chords. top voices leave before the bottom. Okay, I'm going to skip backwards to the vivo, well maybe not, the tempo primo before the ritornello, which uses the thematic material from the beginning. Even more. Whoops. Single line. Scheme of things, not an atrocious mistake, but I have to rely on my source here to tell me what to do. Move to from third to third. That'll be fine. Let's go back. Vivo. Is that right? No, that was just being careful. That's not the way it goes, or at least it's none of the sweep that it'll need. But there's an awful lot of complex I would say Bartok was a terribly pianistic composer. He certainly composed at the piano, with the piano in mind, and could execute with great persuasiveness whatever he wrote. It doesn't change the fact that he writes a lot of very ungainly stuff here. Very big chords, and certainly very, I'll use the word articulate in two ways. He wanting to be the master of articulation the way he felt Debussy was before him, he identified a lot of articulative marks, invented a few of his own, and so that's very much a part of his language that I have to be aware of. The particular sonorities that he appreciated, particularly because he's capturing orchestral textures, means that the pianist has to be either have big hands here or be very inventive. And it's also helpful to look for the lines. These may seem highly chordal and boom-chicky, but they're not arbitrary. There's always a line. For example, the ones with the accents, the thumb line. So I have to model it with two hands. Sorry. Okay, so it takes all that while to get up to A. So he's going, let's see. It helps to know that. Interesting. Key spot. He offers us an hour and this is very nice because we need it. Letting go of the second. Turns into open A's. How nice. Another copy, even though it's a different edition, it's not all that different. It's grammatically not different. It's significantly not different. In fact, the pagination is the same, the typesetting is the same. There are not that many changes in this Peter Bartok 1991 edition. So it makes it easier with the page turn, therefore, because okay. That's good. Okay, let's go back to vivo. Careful here. Wouldn't you know it? Where you have to be most careful is where there are all white notes, because, for example, in measure I guess this is measure 96. None of these measures are numbered, incidentally. But it's after the vivo starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going from a D octave to an A and F. To really make that fluid, I have to make sure that my arm delivers my hand in a slightly tilted position in toward the thumb. If I just grab it head on, I'm going to miss most of the time. This way it squares up the hand. Even more so when I have the seventh with a black note here. So it's somewhat tilted, a lot tilted, squared away, tilted again. So it's one of those things where it's the right hand that's primary, melodically speaking, but it's the left hand that needs all my attention. So. Oh, you know what? Finally I figured out why none of that made sense before. It's in the measure of the poco allargando, Bartok doesn't make it very clear that there are two chords simultaneously, one in the right hand and one in the left hand. That's why I found that extraordinarily unfamiliar before. Now, if I want to be somewhat true to what he wrote, the A holds, so if I let the left hand go, then I can do it with my sostenuto if I so desire. Strangely, I had not written that. S. Excellent, okay. Coming along. This is the top of page 5. Same page in both editions. lot of slurs that are in unexpected places, and it's really important for me to have, or to recall, the physical memory that enables me to make sense out of them. I don't want to have to be thinking all the time about which offbeat is this. So it's here, second beat, one and, one and, two and, one and, one and. Charm. It certainly gives great vitality and character and jaggedness to it. Whoops. For the page turn, that was really handy. Everybody ought to have 2 copies of everything. If only for that reason. in the previous session and let go so that my arm gesture gets me to the notes. I'll tie all up. I'll tie up. Or you know what? I'm lost. Okay. I'm going to substitute 1 on my white note for the 2 I was doing. It makes everyone's thumb is a much better pivot than everyone's second. Especially in this kind of setting. So, like getting going to just miss a lot of notes here. And because it's a recurrent figure, I don't want to do that. In other words, I have this melodic figure repeated. Oops. Octave. Yeah, that makes a difference. Okay, that's enough reviewing of this. Just to, again, I really don't know how many years it's been, but just today I started to review it, and it is a delight to have an old friend come back and say, okay, I know I'm hard, I know I'm challenging in all kinds of ways, but here's what you can do. I do have the distinct sensation that by far the most challenging movement was the finale. So it's possible that it would be smart for me to invest some of my time in going right to the finale. On the other hand, there's something eminently satisfying in going to pieces where you can say, okay, I've got a good sense of how that's going. So practice needs rewards. It needs lots of rewards. It needs reassurances. So I'm torn between recognizing I need to spend a goodly amount of time on the finale, but I need to reacquaint myself with the other movements as well. So maybe I'll wrestle with this quandary out loud for you, and you can watch the internal workings of my turmoil and my demons at war with one another. And maybe at least they'll have words to speak to one another, which will make the communication clear, even if it's rowdy. So we'll see what happens.